Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome to my Tiny Talks podcast, the show where we'll dive into self-love, inner child healing, and discovering your soul's purpose. I look forward to chatting with you every single week and helping you grow exponentially in all areas of your life. Without further ado, here's today's Tiny Talk. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to episode 8 of Tiny Talks. I have missed talking to you guys so much over the last week, and I'm over the moon excited to be chatting with you guys again. I hope you guys enjoyed last week's episode all about a mental health check and reflecting on your past self. I truly hope you were able to take something away from that podcast and maybe learn something about yourself. And I really think last week's episode ties perfectly into what I want to talk about this week, which is a hard question to ask ourselves sometimes. And basically it's if your community or the people that you're surrounding yourself with are actually pushing you away or veering you off your path from being your truest and highest self. And so the reason that this really stuck out to me is because I was guilty of falling into this pattern for quite a few years. And it takes a lot of awareness and self-reflection to even be able to ask ourselves some hard questions that I'm going to be leaving with you all today. And so really to start off, I just wanted to share a little story of how this really came into my life. And so for about the last 3 years, I would say prior to my growth journey, so from about 2018 till 2020, I was in a really weird place in my life where I was just beginning my social work career. I hadn't really figured out where I wanted to live yet, what I wanted to do. I was trying different careers in the mental health field, and I was just really trying to figure out where I wanted to go with my life. And asking myself those hard questions of, am I following what I think society wants me to do? Maybe what I think my parents want me to do, what I think the universe has planned for me, or am I actually following my heart and my intuition? And so for 2 years, I was really on a path of, I don't really know where I'm supposed to go from here. But when reflecting back, I realized that every single opportunity that I did and that I had was an opportunity to grow and learn to move on to the next phase of my life. And so during that time, the folks that were in my life were loving and supportive and were great to the ability and to the largest capacity that I was living at that time. And so basically what I mean by that is the people that were in my life for those 2 years were a great fit. You know, we got along. I felt like they were supporting me where I needed them to, and all was well. And then when 2020 hit and we started to go into lockdown, and so just to kind of preface what my life looked like, I was working and living in the same environment as a lot of us were. And I knew very quickly that where my job was pouring into other folks a lot of the time doing one-on-one work, I knew that I had to find something for myself. And so it took me a little while to figure out what my thing was. And it's actually a really funny story in that I was living in a really small town in northern Alberta, and we didn't really have anywheres to go shopping or anywheres to get resources. And one weekend I found out that we actually were getting a Dollarama. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically just a dollar store where everything is under $4. And I used to love going there as a child because there would always be lots of craft things and just fun little home decor stuff. And so when I found out that we were getting a Dollarama, I was over the moon excited, A, just to have a place to go and get out of the house, but B, to actually get things to potentially grow my business. Little did I know at the time. And so as the time started to move forward with COVID, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I went down to Dollarama one day and I noticed the craft aisle, and my mind just started going of, oh, I could make this out of that, or if I buy these two things, I could make this really cool piece, or I could macrame that, or whatever it was. And I just started to have all these ideas flowing in my mind. And I decided, this might be my thing. I'm going to start to make different crafts, make different DIYs and different things, because I've always been crafty, but I never really knew my full potential in that area. And so I started to do that as the weeks went on. I really started by making keychains. Then I started making different scrunchies and necklaces. Then I started working with resin, and the rest is history, now having my beautiful business called Meraki, where I sell lots of different handmade, unique pieces. And so basically why I'm telling you this story is because during that time, I really started to recognize that the folks in my circle really were no longer serving my life in a way that they once did. And this is a hard thing to say because sometimes it can come across as arrogance because it's not taking away from those people. You see, if we look back at friends that we've had while growing up, oftentimes they're not in our lives when we're older. And that's because we grow up, we meet new people, people that are in alignment. Maybe it's coworkers. You can relate on the things that you're doing, understanding the things that are going on in your day-to-day life. And so I just want to preface that it is 100% normal and actually okay to outgrow people. And by outgrowing people, I mean that if you're on a new path or if you have found something new, and you're even able to recognize that those people are no longer serving your life, first of all, I just want you to acknowledge for yourself that that is a huge sign of self-growth. And I know that that can be really hard, especially if we've been in the same circle or with the same group of friends for a really long time. It can be really hard to start to even tell ourselves, I don't think that they're filling my cup as much as they once were, or they're taking me away from doing the things that I know that I need to do in order to be successful. Right? And so I know that that can be really, really hard. And a huge thing that I'm going to recommend is just checking in with yourself. If you've been on a growth spurt or on a new journey, checking in with yourself very often when you're around those people. How do they make me feel? Do they lift me up? Are they encouraging me? Are they respectful of my boundaries? Are they understanding in some capacity of the mission and the goal and the trajectory that I am on? I was dealing with that a lot where I truly felt like I was now an outcaster with the people that I was surrounding myself with, where a few years prior, we were on the same path. And again, that's not taking away from that relationship that was once there, because that can always and always will be a part of me. And I'm so thankful for the experiences that I have. And so if you're going through that, or you're noticing that the people in your circle are just no longer making you feel your highest self, are no longer making you feel loved and valued and appreciated, I definitely want to encourage you to look at that. If we really ask ourselves that hard question of, we are the sum of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with. And it's so important that we choose wisely who those people are, because that's going to determine how much work we're pouring into our goals, how much discipline we have in pouring into our goals, right? And I also want to preface that it's also okay to take some time to figure that out. Right? Over the last 2 years, or I guess year and a half, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but just over the last year and a half of beginning that journey, I actually spent a lot of time alone. A lot of time figuring out what I wanted my friends to look like, what I wanted my circle to make me feel like, what I wanted my community to do for me. Right? I recognized a couple months ago that, time is our most limited thing. We don't get to get time back, and we don't know how much of it left that we have. And if we're surrounding ourselves with people and spending our precious time with folks that do not make us feel our best selves, we are only doing ourselves a disservice. And we owe it to ourselves to surround ourselves with those people that make us feel good. And so for today, I really just wanted to leave a couple of signs, or maybe things to look for in someone to ensure that they're good for your mental health, that they're good to be in your life. And those are tough conversations to have, right? And it doesn't always have to end in drama or a fight. Expressing your boundaries and recognizing how someone accepts those boundaries or doesn't is going to be a huge sign for you of whether they're going to be able to respect things that you're putting into place. And if they are not, again, that is something out of your control, but you are vocalizing your boundaries and your needs, and it is up to the other person to be respectful of that. And so that's actually my first point that I have on here, is that they respect your personal boundaries. If you are saying, I can't hang out tonight because I have to do this one thing for my business, that is good on you for, first of all, not giving in to something that most folks would just throw it in and go. Right? We want to do the fun things. That's easy. It's easy and it's pleasurable to go do those things. But it's not easy to say no and to sit at home and do the hard work. But I guarantee you that that is going to make you go much further than going out every Saturday night with your friends. The second thing that I have on here is just that you feel comfortable and safe opening up to them with how you are feeling. If you are feeling nervous or anxious, of course, but if you are scared to vocalize your truth, and I know it can be a hard thing, but if you're worried about what they're going to say out of fear of judgment or fear that they're going to get mad at you, I just want to highlight that a good friend and a good supportive friend will never be mad at you for wanting to vocalize how you're feeling. The third point I have on here is they support your dreams and uplift you. You know, it can be really hard if you're on a growth spurt and you're doing all these things to try to please everybody around you, but it's so important that you have those friends in your circle that are supporting you at least to the best of their capacity. And not everybody's going to understand. I have a lot of people who do not understand why it is that I'm doing all the things that I'm doing. And you know what? That's okay. I'm doing it for myself, for my future, for my family. And that doesn't have to be explained to anyone, and your trajectory and your journey does not have to be explained to anybody either, unless you choose to do so. The next part I have here is you don't have to hide parts of yourself. And this was a huge thing for me, especially when I began my journey with Young Living. I was absolutely terrified of what my friends and family would think of me doing a network marketing company. I was terrified and shameful of them not agreeing or feeling like I needed their approval. And I can now sit here 1 year later of doing my Young Living business and say that I'm so grateful that I pushed through that and I persevered on my goals and my trajectory that I was on, because I knew that my why of why I wanted to do Young Living was so much bigger than anything anybody could say. And so if there's something in your life that you've been hiding or you feel like you don't want to share, first of all, know that you don't have to. You can have little secrets with yourself of things that you're doing, especially if they're healthy and they're things that bring you joy and fulfillment. And if the time is right and you're ready to express that, making sure that you're holding on to your truth of the fact that you're doing it for yourself. And not everybody is going to understand because it's not their path. And again, that's okay. We can't control what other folks are going to think. The next point I have on here is they encourage you to grow as a person. And the thing about this one is that we all grow a little bit differently, right? Maybe growth looks like taking time for yourself and having those boundaries. Maybe growth is that you can't hang out every weekend anymore because you're busy filling your head with knowledge, doing personal development, checking in with clients, doing research, making posts, doing a podcast, taking pictures, whatever it is that fills your personal joy and your goals. Having folks that encourage you to do so and don't take it personally. That's another huge one, is people are going to take it personally, especially when you change your ways. It can be really hard, and that's why it's so important to vocalize your truth and express how you're truly feeling. The next one that I have on here is the feeling that you know that you can be vulnerable around them. That is a huge sign that someone in your circle is good and healthy for you, is that you feel you can open up and be vulnerable and share and have that openness to heal potentially, or even just to get some things off your chest. I really wanted to share this with you guys because I know what it's like to feel lonely or feel like you have no friends per se, or feel like the people in your circle are just no longer fulfilling you. And I just want to give that permission that that is okay. New people are going to come into your life. And I can guarantee you that you're going to thank yourself so much more for having those people in your life that suit your needs, lift you up, encourage you, guide you, understand you, want the best for you, are the first ones there to cheer you on. Instead of those people that you feel like you have to continue to be friends with because you have been for X amount of time. Those are hard conversations to have, but I guarantee you you're going to thank yourself more in the future for making those hard decisions for yourself. It is not selfish. It is actually a sign of self-love and self-reflection, and the fact that you believe in what you're doing so much that you are willing to have those hard conversations, to look at your circle, to ask yourself those hard things. That's a reflection of you, and I promise you, you are going to get so much further in your journey while also attracting people that do the same thing. if you can get around people that are like-minded and want the best for you, but are also on their own journeys, I guarantee you are going to grow exponentially more than you were around those other folks. I know this was a little bit of a hardcore podcast in the way that it can be taken in a positive way and it can be taken in a negative way. And I truly just hope you know that it is, again, not selfish. You are worthy to surround yourself with good people. You are worthy to feel seen and accepted and loved around those people that you are spending your precious time with. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode of Tiny Talks. As always, you can find me on my social media, and I look forward to chatting with you guys next week. Bye, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into this week's episode of Tiny Talks. If you're looking to connect, you can find me on Instagram at JessieBrown13. I look forward to chatting with you all next week.